Hello, viewers. My name is Zach Hardy, and this is my USW Retaliation 2017 review. And before I get into the review, I want to note a few things. First off, if you may or may not have noticed, not that jersey. That's not what I'm talking about. I released 4 videos yesterday, with music and everything. One was a list about the Holy Cross Crusaders team that I ranked from 29 to 1. The other was Zach Hardy's pros and cons. Zach Hardy's theme song, pros and cons, for each theme song, and then the 2 things about the UFL draft and free agency period. Um, I'm going to try to do more of those because apparently people like them, but I'm going to try to make them into a list where I can effectively um, write down a specific list, maybe the top 10 something. And with very little editing, I can create the slide. I can have the info text at the bottom, and I can, do that and, put music to it and everything, make it enjoyable to watch. So that's what I'm going to try to do, probably weekly, something like that. But other than that, glasses should be coming in this week. And yeah. So without further ado, let's get into the review of Retaliation. This pay-per-view was the last Intensity pay-per-view. We should touch on that. It's the final Intensity pay-per-view of or the final Intensity pay-per-view before Call to Greatness 12. So this was their final, shot at, organizing everything into a neat, clean order, cutting off the rivalries that weren't going to go into Call to Greatness, strengthening the rivalries that were going into Call to Greatness, and start the rivalries that are going into Call to Greatness. So it was expected to be Intensity's saving grace for Call to Greatness 12, considering their side of the card doesn't look as interesting as the Severity side of the card. However, there was some really good wrestling on the night, extremely good wrestling, I should say. There wasn't enough story told throughout. It was more told throughout the matches. There was no segments. There was no interview. It was match, 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 and that was that. I enjoyed it very much. I liked the card. It was great wrestling. It was something you'd more expect from New Japan, where it was focused on wrestling primarily and 100%, as opposed to maybe 90% wrestling and 10% storytelling. Retaliation captured 100% on professional wrestling, and I loved it. It was obviously 1999, as the majority of the brand pay-per-views are. And it was on March 12th, 2017 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So this had, big shoes to fill, since it was in a bigger area than State College was for Agony. So without further ado, let's get into a great night of wrestling. The kickoff match, they started out the show hot with the best match I've seen in USW in a long time. The title of this stream obviously suggests, tag match of the year, obviously suggests that this match was incredible and was obviously the match of the night. But I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say this was the best wrestling match, pure wrestling match with no story, just pure wrestling I have seen in USW in 2017, and the best tag team wrestling match I've seen in USW, period. It was the kickoff match. It was the ladder match for the USW Tag Team Championships. Austin Cole and Jack Ramsey went into the match defending the titles against Amore and Xavier King. This was kind of like the last-ditch effort for Amore and Xavier King to actually, get the titles around their waist. This was kind of like their last-ditch effort. And overall, right from the entrance, you saw that the performers were taking this seriously. It's almost as if, right before they went up to the curtain, they pulled them aside, each and every one of them, and said, put on a great match. They may or may not have happened, but it certainly felt that way. The match was incredible. You had insane spots that sometimes made me doubt the mental sanity of each and every one of the performers. You had Austin Cole take a ladder from not in the middle of the ring, but close to the middle of the ring. Um, have it tilt over against the ropes, have it bounce off, and then get to the like kind of near the top, and then bounce off it again and do a swanton onto everybody on the outside. That was one of those moments that could have gone either way. Could have been really cool or ended really badly. Um, there was another spot where Jack Ramsey was holding on to the belts and he was dangling, and Xavier King and Amor were the only ones in the ring, and Austin Cole was on the outside. Okay. Uh, what was it? No. Austin Cole was on the outside of outside of the ring. Amor and Xavier King were the only ones in the ring with Jack Ramsey high above, and they had a ladder in each hand, or in each performer had a ladder, and they just went and just got him from both sides with the ladders, and he just fell to the ground. At this point, Austin Cole was staggering to his feet, but still. Um, Overall, the match was great. They didn't introduce the ladders for, I want to say, a good 15 minutes. The match went on for about 35 minutes. Um, and overall, this was extremely well done, and the finish to the match was great. Um, you had Amor climbing the ladder as Xavier King was on the outside trying to take Cole and Ramsey out of the equation. And he was doing whatever he could. He was beating the shit out of Cole and Ramsey on the outside, keeping them from getting in the ring. Amor was spent. He was climbing up the ladder as seemingly as slow as possible, and then all it really took was Xavier King to run at Jack Ramsey, who then did the whole press through the commentator's table, and then Ramsey and Cole got in the ring, tilted Amor off, and then Amor goes over the top and out to the floor, and then Cole and Ramsey climb the ladder and retrieve the titles. So Cole and Ramsey win the match against Amor and Xavier King. They're going to go into USW Call to Greatness 12 as the tag team champions for now, which I'm looking forward to because I really like this match and I really like these guys. These guys are probably my favorite tag team in USW at the moment. They are hitting it on all cylinders. Their characters are great. They are loudmouths. They can go in the ring. They are technically sound. They're a better version of the Revival. And I really like this match. 5 stars. 5 stars. 5 fucking stars. 5 stars. We get to the second match. The second match was for the Red Belt Championship. Weiler defended the title against Chain Reaction. This match was really good in the ring. I just wasn't invested in it enough to enjoy it to its full effect. Like, I watched the match, and whereas I should have gone, yeah, this is a really good match. I'm really interested to see what the ending was. I really just sat through the match and going, it's actually a really good match. This is good. This is good. I didn't really have a care for the characters or for the title or for the story. I just liked the wrestling, which made it kind of feel like it was taking a pace from a pay-per-view to an intensity, where it was just a pointless match, but it was really good, in the terms of wrestling. Um, Overall, Weiler wins clean. He retains the red belt title. This is some good wrestling. Chain Reaction showed more technical prowess than he usually does. Yeah, 3.5 stars. Third match was Arvo Black and Aiden Ritchie, the Stargazers, against Ezra Hills and Benny Franklin. Before the pay-per-view, there was a rumor that I had gotten from Leo Thompson, Mashigeta, as you know, who had heard from another guy on the Intensity roster a rumor that Hills and Franklin are supposed to fight each other at Call of Greatness 12. Um, I can obviously stand here and say that because A, it's a rumor to my knowledge, and B, I'm not employed by the company anymore. So if I spoil anything, I'm not getting in trouble, and Leo won't get in trouble because he got it secondhand, and he's the only guy. He was one of the only guys that tell me anything, insider knowledge about USW. So especially now that I'm not there anymore. So I heard that news on Friday. So I went into the pay-per-view on Sunday looking at this match, and I know it's the second match they've had against each other, Stargazers, Hills, and Franklin. So I'm thinking, Stargazers won the first match. Stargazers won the first match. What if they win this match, and Hills or Franklin turn on each other? So all throughout the weekend, I was going on the assumption that Hills and Franklin were going to turn on each other. And it made it it made it to the point where I was on the edge of my seat, leaning into my computer screen, watching, because Arvo Black and Aiden Ritchie ended up picking up the win. So, and the camera panned, to the ring after the match, and you saw Hills and Franklin in the middle of the ring, and I went, "Oh shit, it's actually going to happen," and it didn't. Hills and Franklin just walked away annoyed, and Black and Ritchie pick up the win. I'm not mad at that. I would obviously like to see Ezra Hills and Benny Franklin versus Austin Cole and Jack Ramsey for the USW tag team titles at Call of Greatness 12. I don't think it's going to happen, but before Hills and Franklin break up, which it seems like it could happen soon, I want them to at least get a proper feud with Austin Cole and Jack Ramsey. That would be fitting. That's the only thing that would fit perfectly into place. That match would sell tickets for wrestling fans, especially in Pennsylvania. So, obviously, I spoiled that the Stargazers won, but this was a really clean match. I didn't see a single botch. Hills and Franklin utilized their tag team prowess to kind of pick apart Black and Ritchie, and it was just an enjoyable match to watch. It was something that picked up the pace after the Red Belt title match kind of lowered it. So I'm going to give this 4 stars. And I really like the character booking that they're having with Black and Ritchie, as they're new in the ranks, but they're trying their hardest to make it to that tag team title picture to kind of establish their names in the company quickly. And Hills and Franklin are just, I don't know, they're on the downhill path. That's what makes me feel like they're going to break up soon, or they're going to split up soon. But I like the character path that Ritchie and Black have right now, as they're trying to quickly establish their name on the roster, and they're trying to earn it quickly. So that's always fun to watch. Fourth match on the card was something that didn't seem too natural. It seemed kind of as though it was just kind of put on the card, even though it had like a week or two of build-up. And that was Washington versus James. I liked the match. I really liked the match. But I felt like I was involved with the match just because I was able to actually care for the characters, and I was able to care for the wrestling, and I had hopes for what the match would bring forward. I knew they put on a great match because James and Washington are both capable of having really great matches. But it just didn't feel natural. I was invested in the characters. I was invested in the match. It felt like it was just put together, which doesn't equal anything good. But nevertheless, I didn't have a problem with this match, other than the fact that it felt like it was put together out of nowhere. even though I've watched Intensity the past 3 weeks, and it was built up on like 1 or 2 of those 3 weeks. James ended up winning. Um, there were fewer rest holds than I thought there would be because Washington usually wrestles a methodical pace. James wrestles a higher up tempo pace. So I thought Washington would kind of have to put in a couple rest holds in between, the energetic maneuvers and spots. That didn't really happen. Washington kind of picked up the pace, which I was very surprised about. And yeah, James wins clean, 1, 2, 3, and I'm gonna give that match 3.5 stars. Fifth match on the card was for the Blue Belt Championship. It was Philip Akron defending with Tyreek Carver in his corner against Samuel North. Obviously, because this is the first match Akron had with Carver on ringside, and the first match that Akron had defended the Blue Belt title on against Carver, or I'm sorry, with Carver on his corner, you knew Carver was going to help Akron win. So it became a spoiler that Akron was going to retain. But the match was really good, nonetheless. Carver didn't get involved until the end of the match. I mean, unless you, excuse me, unless you count the fact of yelling at, both North and Akron. But other than that, he didn't get involved in the match until the end. It was really solid wrestling. Philip Akron seemed more agile and he seemed more comfortable. I guess it was because he had fought against Samuel North. He had put up matches against Samuel North before, so he was kind of used to the moveset now. And overall, it was some really good wrestling. And at the end, Samuel North ends up going towards the ropes to launch at Carter for a diving clothesline, and Carver trips him up. And then, what was it? North kicked the bottom rope and then turned around. Akron went for a clothesline. North ducked. He went up against he ran towards the other ropes. Akron ran up against those ropes. They bounced back. They hit a double clothesline, and then they went for another double clothesline. But Akron ducked underneath the way, picked him up, and dropped him onto his knees. Cover 1, 2, 3. Akron wins. Great wrestling. 4 stars. Sixth match on the card was a 4.5 star match. It was Alexander Rotten versus Cannon. And this match I was extremely invested in. That's all for now, folks. This match had been built up for the past couple of months. It was very entertaining to see these guys going at each other's throats. They genuinely seem like they hate each other. And because they have gotten used to their characters equivalently, they've gotten used to each other's movesets, the way each other talks, the way they hold themselves in the ring, the way their characters are, it feels natural. They gel with each other. It's a perfect feud. And I'm glad we get one more match into Call Greatness 12. This match was great. It had the it had the climactic moments. It had that time of shit. I actually don't know who's gonna win this, and it even had those near falls. I think there was a 2.9 at one point, and there was a 2.9 from Alexander Rodden. Because if you don't know, in USW, when they go, 1, 2, whatever, if they kick out before 3, the referee goes to the caller and not the caller, to the ringside person, or gestures to the ringside person and says out loud, and he's got kind of like a ruffled mic type feel to it. You can hear it in the camera. He'll go like 2.9, 2.1, 1.7, just to kind of determine where the pinfall was to that point. And they can't lie about it because it's through a specific hand motion. So you had a 2.9 from Rotten, you had 2.8s from Cannon and Rotten, and you had a 2.6 from Rotten. It got to the point where Cannon had gone for the cannonball backflip 3 times. He had hit the chin hook. Rotten was down, and then he went to the top rope. Rotten moved out of the underneath the bottom rope the first time. He moved underneath the rope the second time, and then Cannon went up and Rotten caught him into a T-bone suplex, which was really dangerous because he was already moving in a specific direction to the point where he had to change him into another one. And then he finally was able to hit the cannonball backflip. He was able to do it where Rotten knocked himself into the corner and then down to the ground, and Cannon went up quicker that time because he realized, going up slower gives him more time to counter, and he hit it perfectly. And 1, 2, 3, Cannon picks up the win over Alexander Rotten. This feud goes into Call to Greatness 12, where a winner will be determined somehow. And that's really the big match I'm looking forward to on the intensity side of the card. But other than that, I spoiled it at the top, 4.5 stars. The seventh match on the card, the main event for the USW Championship. That's over now, folks. Derek Carter defends the USW Championship against Dwayne Porter. This match seemed weird just because I don't see too many heel versus heel world title matches in USW, and it's a very rare thing. But I enjoyed it because both guys can go in the ring, and both guys are great on the mic, and they're great holding their own in a major match. Carter was able to trash talk all this entire month leading up to this match, and Porter was able to do the same thing. There was significant grappling. There were submission attempts. There were ventures to the outside. Carter showed signs of vulnerability. Porter was able to capitalize on them all, but he was never able to put Carter away. He'd kick out at 2.7 or 2.6 or 2.8, 2.9. And then Porter went to the bottom of the well, went to the outside, pulled in a chair, sat it down, and then tried to, because technically if you don't have the weapon in hand, this is USW's policy. If you don't have the weapon in your hand and you yourself are not inflicting damage with that weapon, it's legal. So if you were to trip somebody face first into a chair you had brought into the match, technically it's not your hand that's dealing the punishment, so it's not a disqualification. I don't know where that came into play, because I remember a couple years ago there was a match, I don't remember what it was, but somebody they dealt punishment with a weapon, but they didn't utilize they didn't inflict punishment with their own hand, but they still call it a disqualification. I guess this is a new thing, but he ended up trying to trip him over the chair, kind of do the whole Irish whip, trip him over face first into the chair, but Porter was able to do the whole turnaround hip toss onto Porter, who folded the chair in half, and then Carter kicked out the chair and then hit the super kick, and 1, 2, 3. Carter wins. 3.5 stars. Carter wins, retains the USW Championship, and will be the defending USW champion going into Call to Greatness 12. So, the matches we have, or what we know for Call to Greatness 12, is that James and Morbid will more than likely be a match. Derek Carter will defend the USW title against someone, and Majigeta will challenge for the World Heavyweight title. I'm liking this. I like where this is going. I'm interested, I'm invested, and I'm liking it. So, with that being said, the pay-per-view rated on a scale from 1 to 5, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Was it worth the $19.99 to rent? To rent, yes, because if you are a wrestling fan, you will enjoy the wrestling on this show. Was it worth $5 to own or to download? Again, if you really like wrestling and you like legitimate wrestling matches, or legitimately good wrestling matches that serve to the taste, and also if you like the idea of seeing a major tag team match, one of the matches of the year, to start off the show, then yeah, this is the kind of show you would download if you were a strict, or not a strict, if you were a legitimate pro wrestling fan. You enjoyed the wrestling aspect, not necessarily the whole glitz and glamour part. Would I say if you're a casual fan, go pay $5 to watch this? No. Um, Usually, the only times I will tell you to pay the $19.99 to own or however much I'm sorry, $19.99 to rent or however much to rent, and the $5 to own is if it's like a dual branded pay-per-view like the for this year Insanity, Warzone, Call to Greatness, and Bulletproof, and during the time where it was also two big of the big four things. Even still now, Ultimate Consequence and Capital Carnage, because those are still big pay-per-views, even though they're branded. Um, aside from that, it's very hard to get a nonchalant, soul branded pay-per-view $5. I mean, if Retaliation had all matches from that were 4 stars or more, or 4.5 stars or more, yes, by all means, it's a great night for wrestling. But if you're having to pay more money to own it and download it, a little bit more necessarily, but if you're having to pay more to watch it or to own it, to download it, I wouldn't suggest Retaliation be that. I would say if you were to own it or rent it, I'm sorry, if you were to download it, maybe $3, but not $5. But aside from that, I enjoyed the show. It was a very fun night of wrestling, and it definitely satisfied my hunger for decent wrestling that I haven't, or not decent wrestling, great wrestling that I haven't really gotten since San Antonio. So, with that being said, that is my review for USW Retaliation 2017. I'd like to thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Remember, like, comment, and subscribe for more. I am Zach Hardy, and I'm signing off.